Imagine one quiet morning, the sky suddenly turns from blue to a blinding white. Birds stop chirping, winds stop blowing, and an eerie silence fills the air. You look up and see a massive fiery object in the sky, something the size of a planet, moving closer and closer. Scientists on every news channel are screaming the same thing: another planet is on a collision course with Earth. But what would actually happen if another planet smashed into ours? Would Earth survive? Would anyone live to tell the story? Let's rewind and understand how this could even be possible. Planets don't usually collide. The solar system has been pretty stable for billions of years. Every planet has its own orbit, kept in line by the sun's gravity. For another planet to crash into Earth, something would have to go terribly wrong. Maybe a wandering rogue planet, ejected from another solar system, drifts through space and gets caught in the sun's gravity. Over thousands of years, its orbit decays until, one day, it crosses paths with ours. At first, we wouldn't even notice it. It would be just a small point of light in the distance, mistaken for a star. But as months pass, it would grow brighter, larger, and scientists would realize it's not a star, it's a planet roughly the same size as Earth, and it's heading straight for us. Governments would panic. Space agencies would launch every telescope, every radar, every satellite to calculate the impact. They'd confirm the worst-case scenario: there's no way to avoid it. No rocket could push a planet off course. No nuclear bomb could even make a dent. The world would have just weeks to prepare for the inevitable. Tides would grow stronger as the rogue planet's gravity begins pulling on Earth. Oceans would start to rise and fall violently, creating tsunamis hundreds of feet tall. The crust beneath our feet would tremble as tectonic plates strain under the shifting gravitational forces. Volcanoes would erupt across the world, filling the atmosphere with ash. As the planet comes closer, it would dominate the sky, filling half of it with a terrifying, glowing mass of rock and storm clouds. The light from the sun would dim as the two worlds' atmospheres begin to interact, sparking lightning storms visible from space. The air would grow hotter, the magnetic fields would twist and collide, and radio signals would fail. Moments before impact, the outer layers of both planets would begin to tear apart. Mountains, oceans, and cities would vaporize from the heat of the collision. The energy released would be beyond imagination, millions of times greater than all the nuclear bombs ever made. The surface of both planets would melt instantly. From space, it would look like two glowing orbs colliding and merging into a single massive, molten world. Fragments of rock would be hurled into space, forming a ring around the new, shattered planet. Some scientists believe that this is exactly how our moon was formed billions of years ago, when a Mars-sized object called Theia slammed into the early Earth. So, in a strange way, if another planet hit us, we might just create another moon, or an entirely new world. But of course, no one on Earth would survive such an event. Life, as we know it, would be erased. However, in the endless timeline of the universe, that might just be another step in cosmic evolution, a new planet forming, cooling down, and maybe one day, hosting life again. Now let's jump to another mind-bending question: what if the Earth stopped spinning? You probably don't feel it, but right now, you're moving at about 1,670 kilometers per hour because of Earth's rotation. If the planet suddenly stopped, everything not anchored to the ground would keep moving at that speed. Cars, buildings, oceans, everything would fly eastward. At a deadly velocity, the atmosphere itself would keep moving, creating winds faster than any hurricane on record. Mountains would erode, cities would flatten, and the planet would be torn apart by its own momentum. But if Earth slowed down gradually, the effects would still be catastrophic. Days would become longer, nights colder, and weather patterns would change forever. The equator would dry out, while the poles would freeze. Gravity would also shift slightly. Right now, because of the spin, we experience a tiny outward force that makes us weigh a little less at the equator. Without rotation, that force disappears, so gravity would feel stronger. Our oceans would migrate toward the poles, creating two massive seas near the Arctic and Antarctic, while the equator would become a vast desert. Now, imagine another question: what if the moon disappeared? The moon does more than make the night beautiful, it keeps our planet stable. Its gravity controls the tides and helps keep Earth's tilt steady. Without it, our planet would wobble like a spinning top. Seasons would become unpredictable. Some years, the poles might face the sun for months, roasting under endless daylight. Other years, they'd freeze in darkness. Tides would weaken, affecting marine life that depends on them. The rhythm of nature itself, migration, reproduction, and weather, would fall into chaos. Over centuries, that instability might even make Earth less habitable for humans. But let's flip the question, what if Earth had two moons? That would be breathtaking, but also dangerous. The gravitational pull of two moons would cause massive tidal waves, stronger earthquakes, and more volcanic eruptions. Nights would never be completely dark. The added light might even affect animal behavior and human sleep. It would be beautiful, but deadly. Now, think about the sun. What if it suddenly vanished? In the first 8 minutes, we wouldn't even notice. Light from the sun takes about that long to reach Earth. Then, suddenly, the world would go black. The temperature would plummet, dropping hundreds of degrees below zero. Within days, the oceans would begin to freeze from the top down. Plants would die first, then animals, then humans. The atmosphere would slowly collapse as gases liquefied in the cold. The only warmth left would come from the Earth's core and geothermal vents deep under the ocean. Maybe, just maybe, a few forms of life could survive near those vents, but everything else would perish. If the sun disappeared, gravity would also vanish with it. The planets, no longer held in orbit, would drift into the endless dark. Earth would become a frozen, wandering world, floating through space forever. But what if the opposite happened? What if the sun suddenly doubled in size? Earth would instantly burn, the oceans would boil away, the atmosphere would ignite, and the ground itself would melt. Even from Mercury to Mars, the solar system would become an inferno. Yet, all these scenarios, planets colliding, spinning stopping, moons vanishing, suns dying, remind us of something powerful, how fragile our world really is. We live in a perfect balance. The distance from the sun, the tilt of our axis, the pull of the moon, the rotation speed, all of it forms a delicate harmony that makes life possible. If even one of those elements changed slightly, life would struggle, or end entirely. And yet, despite that fragility, Earth has survived billions of years of chaos, meteor strikes, ice ages, volcanic winters, and cosmic radiation. Somehow, it always finds a way to restore balance. Now let's dive into one more lightning round question, what if humans could live forever? At first, it sounds amazing, no disease, no aging, no death. But soon, the consequences would appear. Populations would explode, resources would vanish, the planet would choke under the weight of endless humanity. Governments would have to control who gets to reproduce. Society would split between those who choose to live forever and those who don't. Even emotionally, eternity might become unbearable. Imagine losing everyone you care about, century after century. Imagine watching civilizations rise and fall, oceans dry up, continents shift. Immortality might not be a gift, it might be the greatest curse of all. Now, what if we could move Earth? It sounds insane, but some scientists have actually thought about it. In the distant future, when the sun grows hotter and threatens to burn the planet, we could theoretically shift Earth's orbit outward, maybe by steering asteroids past it, using their gravity to tug our planet bit by bit. It would take millions of years, but it could work. Humanity might literally move its home to survive. Finally, let's end with one haunting question. What if we're not the only intelligent species watching all this? What if, somewhere out there, another civilization is asking the same questions, wondering about their own planet, their own sun, their own fragile balance? Maybe they've already lived through what we fear, planetary collisions, dying stars, or cosmic catastrophes. Maybe they've survived, or maybe they're gone, leaving only radio whispers traveling through the void. In the end, all these what-ifs remind us how small we really are. Our world is just one tiny rock in an endless ocean of space. Yet, within that rock exists something extraordinary: life, consciousness, curiosity. The ability to ask these questions means we're aware of our place in the universe. So next time you look up at the night sky, remember, every star, every planet, every light you see out there could be another story, another world wondering the same thing: what if?